Hey, it's Ryan. I'm really excited to be going over this absolutely classic, amazing, beautiful song, Stand By Me by Benny King. So let's go over the intro and the verse, and then we'll talk about it. So here it is. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't. A lot of amazing things about this song. We're going to be working on playing chords in the key of A good substitute for our F sharp minor chord as an example. We're going to be making an arrangement of playing this bass line and the chords at the same time. And we're also going to take a big look at our strumming hand and how we can change our strumming hand depending on what part we're playing in the song. So let's dive right into it. To start, the song opens with the bass line, which sounds like this. And so if you wanted to just play the bass line for that, you totally could. Whenever I do this in music therapy sessions, I will put the chords on top of the bass line so that way it can sound a little bit more full. And I'll also change my strumming hand depending on if I'm in like a large group context or if I'm in like a one-on-one context. So let's start with the bass line. To play it, there's a couple different ways that you can play it with your strumming hand. You can either pretend to hold a pick, or you can do your thumb if you're just playing the bass line. Because I'm going to teach you how to play it with the chords, I would recommend that you pinch your fingers together as though you're holding a pick. And the first two notes are this. So let's just practice these two notes really quickly together like this. I'm using my ring finger here. You could also use your pinky if you wanted to, but I like the way that the ring finger feels better, especially for where we're headed next. One more time. And then the next thing that we're going to do is play this A chord. So there's many different ways to play the A chord. When you're doing the bass line, if you try playing it this way, all of a sudden this ring finger has to hop all the way up here to that second fret on the B string. Or if you played it this way, you still run into the same issue, or this way, you still run into the same issue if you try playing your A chord with these different fingerings here. So we're going to play the classic rock A chord. So the way to play that is you take your first finger and you just lay it across the D, G, and B strings on the second fret right here. And it doesn't really matter if this high E string rings out or not. The high E right here. And what we also want to try to do is, if you're able to, take your thumb and wrap around to mute the low E string. And if you can't mute the low E string by wrapping your thumb around, that's okay, because this E note fits in an A chord. So it'll just make it sound more full. And that's the A chord that we're going to use because it makes sense with the fingers. Now all of a sudden we don't have that hop in there. So let's just practice this transition from these bass notes to this A chord very slowly like this. Go. Again. Again. One more time. And so that's how we get from the bass line to this A chord. Now let's take a look at this bar. It sounds like this. So what we're doing here is we're doing a mixture of accenting what I call millennial pattern, and we're doing palm muting. So to do this, to do palm muting, you're going to take the ridge of your hand right here, and you're going to rest it on the bridge of your guitar, and you're going to pinch your fingers together like this, so that way you get this muted sound. Just try this with me. Palm muting is used a lot in rock and roll music, but as you can see, we're using it in this iconic song as well. So that's how we palm mute. Now going back to the tab, what we're going to do is not palm mute the very first strum, and then we palm mute the 2. So really what this should be is this should be not palm muted. And these notes should not be palm muted. However, if you wanted to palm mute all of these notes, you totally could, which is why I originally had these as palm muted chords. But palm muting adds a really nice texture because it's sort of lower in dynamic, and it can really help differentiate when you want to go higher in dynamic when you're not palm muting, which is what we're going to do once we get to the chorus. So doing this, it'll look like this. And we're just going to start with that for now. So we're not going to do the bass line just yet. So just try this with me. Go. And we're doing all down strums, because down strums have more power in them than up strums do. One more time. Now that we've got that, now let's try adding the bass line back in. So it'll look like this. And we'll take it a little bit slower, but what you're gonna do is play the low E string and then use either your ring or your pinky, and then go back to this A chord here. So maybe like this. Go ahead and join me. Open 4th fret A. Open 4th fret A. 2 more times. Open 4th fret A. Open 4th fret A. And so that's what we do for the first bar. For the second bar, what we do is the bass line changes a little bit and it goes the opposite. So what you could do here is I have this bass line isolated, but honestly, you could just play the chord right there and do this. Like that. So let's just try that together very slowly like this. Go ahead and join me. Here, A, 4th fret A, 4th fret A, 4th fret A. Last time. And when we play this 4th fret right here, our ring finger is going to be not on the tip, but it's going to be on the pad. So that way we can mute this A string. So that way we can avoid this sound. So if you're on the very tip, that A string will ring out and clash with the G sharp. So if you're on the pad, you can mute the A string that way. Next up, after we go from these 2 bars, we go to the F sharp minor. And instead of playing a full-on F sharp minor, because of the fact that we're in the key of A and the key has been established in this song, you can play an F sharp power chord instead, and that will substitute your F sharp minor. So looking at the F sharp power chord, it is 1st finger 2nd fret on the low E, ring finger 4th fret on the A, and pinky on the 4th fret of the D. And then we are on the pad of this finger here, so that way this 1st finger can mute the G, B, and high E strings. You can also play your power chord this way, without the pinky, or you can play your power chord this way, where the pinky's on the A string. All of these ways are valid. This way sounds a little bit more full. Afterwards, then what we're gonna do is play just the power chord, like this. So try this with me. Now. One more time. And now what we're going to do is, instead of doing that, we're just going to lift off our first finger right here. So we get this. And that's going to get the bass line, but we're also still holding the chord down. So try this with me. Here we go. Last time. And then once we go over to this bar, it's the same thing, almost. Once we get to this fourth beat right here, I'll let go of the power chord and just have the first finger on. And then I lift the first finger off to play the low E string. So let's try this together. Here we go. Repeat it. One more time. And then once your finger is lifted off, that open E string gives us room to move to our D chord. It's just the normal D. If you're able to wrap your thumb around to mute the low E string, I would highly recommend that you do that. If not, just be more intentional with your strumming hand about just playing these treble strings over here. So the bass line pattern for this looks like this. Originally, I played it as this, where I used my pinky because I could hold the chord while playing the bass line. But then I'd have a switch to the E that I didn't like. So now, and you can play it this way, because then your ring finger will slide down 2 frets on the D string to make the E chord. If you wanted to, you could also play this low F sharp right here, like this. And if your thumb can wrap around, you can use your thumb to grab it. But I prefer playing it this way better. The other thing that we're going to do here is when we play this D chord and we play the bass note, we're going to keep this pointer finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, so that way both of these fingers can slide down to make our E chord. And what you could also do is, once you get to the E chord, you could do this and do an E7, which would potentially be easier to grab than an E, but I don't like the way that the 7 sounds in this song, so I like just a normal E triad here. So let's practice it. We'll go very slow like this. And then practice going to the E. So we're going to use our ring finger to grab this 4th fret on the D string right there. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and to the E. 2, ready, again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 4th fret, E, 2, one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like that. And if you wanted to right here, you can also still play the chord. So after we go that, then we have the E chord right here. And that's how we play that part. So let's try it very slowly, where it's basically the same thing as with the A, except now we're playing with the E. So, and we'll practice going to the A. So 1, 2, ready, go. 2, here we go. One more time, here we go. And then that takes us to the A chord, which repeats itself as it did in the beginning. So this was the intro and the verse for Stand By Me, and I'll see you in the practice video.